Hello, I'm Louise Roberts-Batterson. Welcome to the Tax Perspective website. Thank you so much for visiting today. I've made it my mission to make tax less scary for mumpreneurs. As a mumpreneur myself, I really understand the challenges that mumpreneurs face. And I'd like to make it so that tax isn't one of those challenges by giving you the confidence to know that your tax affairs are completely up to date and that you are paying exactly the right amount of tax because you are saving tax where you can, you are declaring everything that you need to declare, and you are claiming the right expenses. I'd like to share with you a few examples of clients that I've worked with and the problems that they've faced and how I've dealt with them. The first example I'd like to share with you is a lady who came to see me in a terrible state. She'd not been eating, she'd been making herself sick with worry, and she'd certainly not been sleeping. The problem was that she was so busy running her business that she'd actually completely forgotten that she needed to register and pay for tax. She hadn't done a business plan, she hadn't been to see a business advisor, and it is possible that it can slip through the net. The first thing that I did was to put her mind at rest. She was terrified that she was going to be sent to prison and that her children would be left home alone with no mother to support them. Once she knew she wasn't going to prison, she did relax a little and was able to help me by providing me with all the information that I needed to be able to put her tax affairs in order. Miraculously, she didn't actually owe any tax after I'd finished for those earlier years, and the only tax that she owed was for the last year that we were looking at, which was the current year. So one happy client. The second example I'd like to share with you is a client who had the opposite issue. She was convinced that she was paying too much tax. She'd done her own tax return and accounts and found that after she'd sent in her tax return, she was having doubts as to whether she'd done it correctly. I was able to look at her tax return that she'd done herself and to talk through with her business and what she was doing, and find out that actually, yes, she had paid too much tax, and I got the refund of tax back for her. The other thing that I found out by talking to her was that she never intended to grow her business. It was only ever supposed to be a little bit of pocket money. And with that in mind, I gave her the advice to actually deregister with the revenue and to treat it as a hobby rather than a business. And as a result of that, a great big administrative burden has been lifted from her shoulders. The final example that I'd like to share with you is a client who had been a client of mine for a couple of years, but while I was dealing with his first full set of accounts, he looked at me with a great worry on his face and told me that he had a confession to make. When I questioned him about this to find out why, it turned out that somebody had told him that if a client paid you in cash, that you must not under any circumstances declare that in your accounts. Being a young lad, he believed what he was told by this older man and actually had a stash of cash at home from a big job that he'd done where the client had insisted he was paid in cash. This poor young man couldn't sleep at night and was terrified that he was going to get that knock at the door, and he didn't know how to deal with it. And he'd been too scared to tell me about it at first, but once he told me about it, we were able to put it right, and he won't be getting the knock at the door, and he can now sleep at night. Yes, he has got extra tax to pay, but he knows now that he can safely receive cash from his clients, and as long as he deals with it properly in his business, then he doesn't have anything to fear. Thank you very much for visiting today. If you'd like to find out more about my tax saving tips for mumpreneurs, please enter your details up here, and if you could give me your name and your email address, I'll make sure those tax saving tips get to your inbox. Thank you.